Welcome, everyone. So glad to have you joining us tonight. My name is Jill Clifford. I'm one of the owners of Legacy Tours. We've been doing tours for over 15 years now with Rod, and we've been doing with Russ for a number of years. My husband is also part of Legacy Tours, and I expect him to be joining us before too long. But we are thrilled to be working with Russ and Rod and Dean with this Iceland tour. I'm going to turn the time over to Russ to kind of guide us to some of these highlights that we should be looking forward to.
Iceland is really kind of fun, and it actually started accidentally. In fact, my whole tour business started accidentally clear back in 2017 with the very first big solar eclipse that hadn't happened in North America for like 40 years, since back in the 70s. And it was just something I wanted to do. I wanted to go see the eclipse. It was kind of cool. It was always a highlight for me. And in 2017, I decided not to just go out to see the eclipse by myself. I didn't want to get in the big giant crowd in Idaho. So I organized a little bit of a tour in Wyoming and ended up having about 250 people follow us out in Wyoming, including Dean. And it was phenomenal. It was like, this is it. This is what we have to do more often. And so that started that. Well, it was a little while later, we ended up doing all of the solar eclipses that have happened in the last few years. We've done tours with them. Rod's been on the last one we did, the last total solar eclipse through Missouri, and some other really fun tours. But it just so happened that one of these avid universal model guys that was really into it was a science teacher who lived in Iceland, who happened to also be a member of the church. And he just loved it, and he took it and he wrote part of it as a curriculum that he would teach his students in Iceland. And so it's kind of helping him do that. We got to know each other really well. And I said, Ronald, I need you to help me. We're going to do a tour. We're going to come over there and do a tour. So he was a tour guide in the summer, school teacher in the winter. He's the one that kind of helped me get the tour the first time we did it, worked it out. We had an absolute blast. David, you were on that tour, one of our inaugural Iceland tours. It was an absolute blast. And since that time, there's other more things to see. And of course, this year is a total solar eclipse again. And you can't, I'm a perfect example of somebody who got bit by the solar eclipse bug. It's like, every couple of years I got to go get a fix, because once you experience it, you just got to go do it again. There's nothing quite like it. So there's a solar eclipse this August that in Iceland. Now, the whole thing about Iceland, there's a few things. In fact, somebody said, well, why in the world? I think it was Rod. Rod, he's on with us. He says, okay, Iceland's fun, it's kind of cool. I don't have any idea what it has to do with the Book of Mormon evidence guy. And I said, well, that's where you need to know some stuff, some cool stuff. The fact is, in the world, it only takes a small number of people to make an enormous difference in things. You know that. You've heard that story, right? Well, it just so happens it was a very small number of Iceland converts that came to Utah that have had such an enormous impact. And there were only actually about 419 that came from Iceland. But Brigham Young directed them to settle in Spanish Fork. There is Iceland Days in Spanish Fork. They have a monument down there. And the Icelanders have had a huge impact on a lot of things. My distant ancestor, John Will Butler, was the bishop in Spanish Fork. And so they had to learn that language. That was kind of fun. Anyway, that's one of the connections. One of the places we go to is Westmoreland Island. And on that island is a place called Mormon Pond. And it's where the people migrated to, got baptized, and felt the spirit, got on the boat, came to America. Well, they've built a big monument there now with a woman, kind of a statue. She's pointing west. They built the same thing in Spanish Fork. She points back, points east. So it's these two things are pointing to each other, saying this is where we came from, this is where we went. And for a while, the Icelanders were kind of mad at the Mormons for taking some of their very best. But you got to understand, Iceland has had, from a cultural standpoint, it's pretty interesting. It's a Viking haven. It's places where the Vikings hail from. It's also a place that was originally pagan, and then the whole thing converted to Christianity. 1783. So this is the time when American Revolution's happening. This massive earthquake happens in Iceland, and a 17-mile fissure opens up, and it pumps out enough lava that would actually fill the entire Salt Lake Valley from north to south with a pretty sizable layer of lava that kind of flowed out, and it wiped out about a quarter of the entire Icelandic population from starving and that. But cool story. They had the pastor, this Christian pastor, was running around and getting everybody to get on their knees and pray, and as they prayed, the lava flow turned and went a different direction. Didn't wipe out their town. So it's kind of a cool story. That might have some applicability because there was in Iceland, the volcanoes last year flowed through, did not shut down the Blue Lagoon, but came right close to it and kind of invaded into the town of Grindavik. But these guys talk about get on the spot, get that road open back up, and get the town built. They've done a whole lot of stuff. So anyway, let's talk about a couple of things that we're going to go see. I'm going to share screen to show you something. But here's the thing about Iceland. You go to Iceland, you spend a lot of time, you spent money getting there. We don't go check in and take a half a day to get ready to go on a tour. You get there, you get your luggage, we get on the bus, go on the tour. We start immediately. And so one of the cool things about going to Iceland is the days are really long in the summer. You're north of the Arctic Circle, so that means the sun does set, but it actually doesn't get dark. It stays kind of dusk, all night. And so that means we have some long tour days, and that makes us able to go see and accomplish a few things. And if you're going on a vacation to rest and relax, this is not the vacation. This is let's go see all the cool stuff we can, and there's still not enough time to see it all. So,
although I'll argue that there are 3 days at sea on the cruise portion, which will be a little more relaxing.
That's true. And the truth is, there are places we're going to go, and you can kind of get to hang around and see some cool stuff and do that. Because even though there's a lot to do, there's also a lot of time to experience. And that's kind of, in fact, probably the second thing. You're going to see a lighthouse, but the lighthouse is kind of secondary to the other place that we're going to go, and there's waterfalls everywhere. And waterfalls, there you go. You see that? Is it showing it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so a twin waterfall, and we're going to be seeing probably about a dozen waterfalls, and they're all different. They're pretty magnificent. So I'm going to see if I can change right in the middle of this. Here's another pretty cool thing we're going to go see. And this is actually in the area where the solar eclipse is, because when we get out there, that solar eclipse day is a really long day. The solar eclipse doesn't happen until about 5 o'clock, and we're a good 4 or 5 hours from our hotel. So when we get out there, we're going to do some things, and one of the places we're going is Helisander, and the entire town has these full building-sized murals painted everywhere, and you'll have time to walk around and see all those, climb some craters, do some really cool stuff. Iceland is obviously also about volcanoes. And one of the volcanoes we're going to go, when we go to Westmoreland Island, that day we take a ferry across to this island. This is the place where this is where the Mormons gathered. and when they got on the boat. But one of the places that we will go is we're going to hike a volcano, and the volcano is still warm at the top. Now, it hasn't erupted for about 20 or 30 years, and it's not so much explosive. There's a lot of indicators that would happen. So it's been a long time since anybody died just because a volcano exploded there. They live with volcanic activity all the time. From our last tour, and what you're seeing here is when you climb up this, you get to look out across the Atlantic. And you see that island kind of over there to the right? That little white dot on that island is a house. You'll be able to see it there. But the wind coming up that thing, watch this for a second. Now, here's the cool part about it is you're only in the wind when you're right on that summit. And if you kind of walk right back here, this is actually warm. It's heated from the latent heat from years and years ago from the volcanic action. So you can literally walk over, get warm. You can go stand out there and just experience this incredible wind. So it's a pretty immersive experience to be able to see both the ocean, the volcano, all that kind of stuff. You excited to go hiking?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're in.
Let's do it.
Now, I didn't take a picture of the monument. You'll get to see that when you're there. But another place when we're on this island, it's a really cool place to kind of wander around and look at some shops. We have time for that because once we get out there, we do the one hike and we, do those things and just take some time to walk around that island and kind of see what else people are doing. All right, let me get something loaded here. Now, have anybody been seeing any news, Iceland news at all? Have you? Okay.
Just Greenland.
Yeah.
All right.
Greenland mostly.
Here is, isn't it kind of cool? They call this Iceland, and yet it's so green. You will see green like you have never seen in your life. It is the greenest. There's 1,000 shades of green. The slopes of the mountains have this grass growing on them that kind of waves in the wind. There are sheep and horses. By the way, if you ever have a horse and you take your horse off the island, it can never come back to Iceland. They're very protective of the flock of the sheep and the horses there. And so if the horse leaves, it can never come back because they want to keep that horse population, the breed, extremely protected. But anyway, sheep everywhere, climbing up hills, and grass and colors of green. It looks so green you will swear that somebody altered the color when you're looking out your window. There's no way that you can see that bright a green. And David, you probably remember this, the brightest green ever, right? So this is one of the places we went. This is Hellisander, it's this cave right. It's a famous black sand beach. You can kind of see this little spear in the background out on the ocean. Okay, this is a blast. You can climb up all over these things, except something happened this year, and we don't know for sure what it's going to look like because this.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That's what it looks like last week.
That's a huge change.
That's a big change, isn't it?
The black sand was
this,
washed away.
Yeah, and they've been hauling it in, and they brought in a bunch of boulders to try to secure this, but Iceland is a living place. It changes all the time. So there are things that you'll get to see that you probably won't get to see when you go back sometime later. It's a thing It's one of the most active places in the world that changes so dramatically because of the volcanic activity and its proximity to the ocean. We don't know if you'll even be able to walk into that cave. This is what it was before. Okay, so you're looking at those. That's the picture. A similar picture, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it is now.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
But you will get black sand beaches. Here's kind of an overview if you're looking down on it. Okay. So you park here and then you walk down on that. Here, this cave is right here. So the ocean waves have come in and wiped out this entire beach.
Yeah.
All right. What else can we do? Well, this is a cool place right here. This is Thingvellir National Park. And let's see if we can make that a little bit bigger. All right, so this wall right here is North America. This is all that separates North America and Europe. So you're walking on the crack between these two continents. There are another place just up the hill on this, because this trail starts up at the top of the hill. It's pretty well paved, and it's at the visitor center. And you can stand on the two continents. You can actually put one foot on one side and one on the other. So you can be in North America and Europe at the same time. Just kind of hop back and forth. What's interesting about Thingvellir is it is the Iceland form of government was a parliamentary form of government, and in this area that we'll go is the Law Rock. This is where they called their people, they called them chief priests. They didn't call them presidents or kings, they called them the chief priests. Maybe that sounds familiar, right? So the chief priest would come to the Law Rock and they would discuss things back and forth, and then they would make their decisions, and whatever they did, they unitedly would agree that that would be the law of the land. So you would bring your differences to the Law Rock, the chief priest would hear them, make the decisions, and then you go about your business. In the 1200s, when the entire island of Iceland changed to Christianity, they brought the challenges to the Law Rock, and the chief priest told them he would go and come back in 24 hours. And he went for 24 hours, pondered, prayed, had this decision that they would become Christian. And so they left. And then when he came back, he announced that they would be Christian, but that they could still practice their pagan rituals in their houses, but not outside anymore. And so as a way of showing this, he took all of his little gods and he took them and threw them in Godafoss, which is a waterfall that we will see on day 3 of our cruise. Okay, so once we cruise, we're not done seeing some pretty cool stuff. One of the stops when we get to Akiri, I think is the port, we will go to the place, this Godafoss, where all the little gods were thrown in the waterfall to see that. But this is it's in a different place. Thingvellir is clear over here on the Haines Peninsula on the west end of Iceland. Godafoss is clear over on the east end. So that's why we won't see that till we get on our cruise. But this has definitely been on the bucket list to go check that canyon out. How many of you would like to see that canyon? Now for this one, there are 2 options. One of them, because this is probably one of a little bit more aggressive hike. It's a longer hike. You can hike it down in. The other option, the bus will take up to an overlook that will overlook it. The hike down puts you in that proximity where you can be right in those basalt columns, right by that golden turquoise, or that beautiful turquoise river. Okay, so it's one of the iconic places in Iceland. You got to go do that, right? Godafoss is a waterfall that we will go to. This is another place. Now check out the person here. Whoops, let's not go there. Let's stick with our pictures. Look at the person in comparison to the size of that waterfall. Okay, so you walk down to that waterfall. This will change your heartbeat. It is so massive, and you're right in it, and it's big. See that right there? It's kind of hard to show, but it's just massive. It is a enormous waterfall. Here's a good picture of one. See the people there?
Yeah, it looks like Niagara almost.
Yeah, it's every bit as big as Niagara. In fact, it's bigger than Niagara. It's a bigger waterfall. Here's a good example of perspective of the dude standing next to that waterfall. This, you actually walk behind a waterfall.
Oh.
So we probably won't see it in that sunlight. It would be really cool if you could, but that's what it looks like. So you walk along this trail that's behind that waterfall, and so you're walking up the canyon. Here it is from the outside, but there's a trail. You can kind of see the people up there, and they will walk, and you walk around all the way underneath that waterfall. You're going to want to make sure that you bring a raincoat, light covered raincoat, because at least a third of the time it's going to be misty and wet, and you're going to want to have something. It's really important that you layer. You know, everybody gets told when you go on tours, make sure you wear layers. Well, Iceland probably plays that even more, because it can rain and then be sunny in an hour apart. And so there's a lot of mist, a lot of wet, a lot of cold and wind, then it's warm. One of the neat things about Iceland, though, is that because of its proximity in the ocean, the Gulf Stream actually keeps Iceland fairly warm. So even in the middle of the winter, when it's still really cold, it's actually more temperate. It doesn't get as cold as some of the other cold places, even though it's clear up in the Arctic, because the water keeps it fairly balanced. And so that's what you'll find, is that it's always going to be jacket weather, except when the sun's out. So have a jacket, but be able to take that jacket off, because you will start out wearing the jacket in the hike and you'll take it off guaranteed almost every day.
What about gloves and hat? Is it cold enough for that?
It's definitely cold enough that you're going to want a hat that you can have a hat, whether it's a hoodie. Hoodies work great because you don't have to wear it. You know, it depends how sensitive your ears are, but people have the little beanie you put in your pocket, because there are places that you're definitely going to want to have a beanie to do. Gloves, no, that's not so much.
Okay.
You know, the one thing is we don't really plan to have time in the ocean. Not really a swimming kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, a couple of places where you do go to the beach, like the one where we showed you that was completely destroyed, that's the most dangerous beach in Iceland anyway, because sneaker waves, they will go and they'll kind of have these normal waves, and then all of a sudden a wave will come and it'll go all the way up to the top, and it will catch you unaware. So you want to be aware of that. We'll remind you when we're there. I'm not jumping in after you. Just wave. Hey, Rod, grab him, would you?
I'll wait out. I'll go get you. No worries.
All right. You cover that. I'll point, you go get.
I'll get a rope.
But it's cold. Kind of cold water. And, you know, so questions, do we have? People have questions about it? I've kind of covered a lot of territory just briefly here and there. Yes.
He wants to know if we need a bathing suit. Are there hot springs?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. You will have an opportunity to get in at least one, maybe two hot springs. One of the places that I have on the thing is the Highlands. And so the Highlands are pretty cool. For those that want to do the hot pool, the river comes out and it's too hot to get in. So you just pick your place along the river to where the temperature is you want. So it gets a little bit further down. You want to get a little bit warmer, you just move a little bit up. So, Icelanders have lots of places they like to be in hot pools. We don't usually go to the Blue Lagoon hot pool just simply because it's kind of a crowded touristy spot. It's expensive. So there may be time if you really wanted to do it. We did that last time. We let a couple people that wanted to, but it's not that cool. It's more of it's cool to go see. But what it really is water that's coming out of a geothermal plant. So they run the water through the power plant, and then that's the water that's left over that they have in a pond, and it's white. It's really beautiful, But I'm thinking, who wants to go swimming in power plant water? But you can.
Chances to use your swimming suit on the cruise.
And there will be. There's almost always a swimming pool in the hotels, and often they'll have a sauna so that you can actually go sit in a sauna. And the hot springs of a geothermal activity are often what heats the sauna. Not in every hotel, so I don't know for sure if our hotel has it, but many of them do have something where they take advantage of that, because the entire island is heated with geothermal heat. They, believe it or not, they actually export energy.
Wow.
And it's all from geothermal heat. I saw somebody else.
Yeah, there was a question about how much hiking or walking per day.
Every day that we are on the land side of it will involve hiking. There are some hikes that are definitely a little bit more. I would probably say a 3 to 4. As I'm looking at how you've done your tour activity level and some of the other stuff. For example, when you hike that crater, that's a good hike.
It's 4.
Okay, it's definitely a 4. It's not super long, but it's up there.
Is everyone required to do it? If you can't climb it, can they stay back?
Nope, you don't have to do it. The parking lot is actually closed. You'll be able to see the bus almost the entire time while we're making the climb. So you can just sit back. There are places you can walk around down below. In most cases, the more aggressive walks or hikes, there are secondary things that are a little bit less that you can do.
I have a question about laundry services. Will there be times that we will have access to washer and dryers?
I will check on the hotel, not that I am familiar with. I'm guessing it will be like European hotels, and they will offer laundry services, but you will send it out to them. They'll have a bag in your room. You'll check the amount of shirts, socks, etc. They'll pay either by the pound or by the item. They will launder for you. I will double check on that, but none of the European hotels we've ever stayed at have offered guest operated machines.
And that was my experience last time too. So maybe halfway through, we're going to be at the same hotel, so you should be able to send your stuff off and have it back. And then I don't know what it is on the cruise. Does it change? The same thing?
Yeah, I'll check on that one too. I've only seen one cruise that offered guest use machines. Otherwise, they do offer laundry services. Same thing. They'll have a bag in your room and you can check things off. It's not always a popular item or option, but I bring a little bit of detergent and do some laundry in my sink, so I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah, we did that too. We did a little there. In fact, speaking of that, probably another question that hasn't been asked that people would ask is the food. During the day, they don't have fast food places. You don't get to stop. There's no Jack in the Boxes or Cracker Barrels, or they just don't have that. What you have is grocery stores. So we'll be stopping at the grocery stores. You go in and you grab your snacks, whatever you want. You kind of get your stuff. So you're more or less going to pack a picnic of sorts. And that's what you'll do. And so we'll have opportunities to do that along the way. When you're on the cruise, of course, you get all kinds of food.
Yeah, that's right. The hotel does have a restaurant on site. It is expensive. I think $65 per person for the buffet. I will double check on that. So we will have these other options, like Russ said, go to grocery stores, bring some snacks. Breakfast is included, so for sure, enjoy the breakfast. And but just beware, it is pricey. The island has to import a lot of things, and smaller population, and on all those things you can expect in a European city, but it's even beyond that. So that's one factor to keep in mind.
Yeah, and there is, literally, there's a lot of a lot of snacks, and they're good snacks. There's some good stuff. We didn't go hungry when we were there before. We had a good time.
Do they accept dollars or do we need to change into krona?
They actually do both. So most places that will take US dollars, or you can exchange your krona, and then you can change it back. You should have some time when you get back to change it in the airport. Change it back. Hey, yeah, they love credit cards.
Right.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went, they took credit cards.
All right, can I just make a couple points about the cruise?
Yeah.
All right, so it's a they call it 8-day, 7-night cruise on Celebrity. I think everyone that is signed up, except for we had some sign up this week, you should have your number, and you can get the Celebrity app, download it on your phone, and you can already be looking at your cruise. And you don't have to do that now, but you will definitely want to do it before we sail. It's a great connection. The first two ports, the very first day we get on, it's a day at sea. It'll be very nice to relax after our busy week touring. And then we have 2 ports in a row. And of course, I don't know how to say these. Desfador and Acuri.
Acuri.
Like
You nailed it.
Acuri. So those 2 ports, we will do as a group. We have an included excursion. Russ is taking care of that, the transportation, entrance fees, and all of those things. Then there is another day at sea, and then we visit Isafjordur, and that one will be you have time on your own. There are excursions you can sign up through the boat. You can look online and find some excursions, but you can also just get off the ship, walk around the town, and explore, without any excursion.
I've watched some YouTubes on it, and it's pretty easy to see what to go do.
And we'll talk more about this, and we'll send out information in our travel and packing as well. But then then we have the day at sea, and our last port is Reykjavik, which is where we start, of course, but we actually have a full day in Reykjavik, and we stay on the ship that night. So you have your hotel and your meals that day in Reykjavik. We aren't doing anything currently as a group. Russ and I have discussed maybe some options, but right now it's open. As far as dinners go on the cruise, we have selected early dining for everyone. So I don't know exactly what the tables will look like, but ideally we're all able to have dinner together and mix that up and sit with different people, but be dining at the same time. It's a nice time to get to know one another in the evenings on the ship.
Okay, so it's the Monday, the port city of Seyðisfjörður. That's our Studical Canyon. That's the one we're gonna do. Okay. The second day is in Acuri. That's Godafoss and the other things we're gonna do. So Wednesday is Ísafjörður. That one is no, we don't have anything. If you did anything there, I think that's the side where you might find a excursion to go track down some puffins if you wanted to go do some puffin watching.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw whale watching options. There is another waterfall option that looked interesting.
I haven't really given Rod a lot of time to talk, but Rod was just so instrumental in working on the universal model and the science behind it. So we're going to be leaning on him to share with how some of these things are made, the lava, the different types of lava. Rod, you're going to get to hold your own on that.
In fact, I've been at a little bit of a disadvantage because I wasn't there with you guys when you did the first tour, but I actually have been in Reykjavik twice before. So just in flight layovers between here and Europe. So I am really looking forward to seeing some of these things. A couple of things that come to mind as far as I'm concerned, and that is that from a universal model perspective, this area of Iceland is got to be one of the geologically most interesting places on planet Earth. There's more things like you were talking about. Two continents actually, get so close together, basically that you can put one foot on each side. The glaciers and the waterfalls and the ocean and so forth. It's all there. Dunes and so forth. It's all part of this. Dean and I and Russ have been in many places with volcanoes and so forth, but this is an area that has probably been less messed with by mankind than almost any other place. And so this is going to be going back to what things looked like and were doing even thousands of years ago. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about exploring the Book of Mormon aspects of this, right, Russ? So. In fact, I was just before I got onto the call here, I was on another Zoom call with Hannah Stoddard and a few other people, and she did a documentary, the Joseph Smith Foundation, about Nephites in Europe, and that's where some of this information involves with the Book of Mormon. I'm looking forward to having an opportunity to share some additional information. Those of you who may not know a lot about the research that we've done on the Book of Mormon and so forth. But that's we'll take an evening at some point in time and kind of go through some of that. I know Russ we are going to be talking a lot about universal model things. And I had the opportunity to work with Russ and Dean on the universal model for 7 years as a senior scientific researcher there. When it comes down to things like the basalt columns that we're going to see. I've seen basalt columns in several different places. I was just up in Yellowstone this last summer, and there's basalt columns there, but there's only been a handful of places that I've actually been to that have basalt columns, and this area in Iceland has several different areas where there's basalt columns. And I actually did with Dean, I did some experiments where we actually made some basalt columns. In a laboratory environment. So how do these basalt columns, how are they made? So that's some of the things we're going to be talking about with that. So I'm excited about that. I just want to thank so Jill and Mark and especially Russ because he's been kind of spearheading the places because he's been there. But I'm excited about doing this tour, learning more about this, and being able to discuss the universal model things. Volcanoes and so forth are such a prominent part of our geological history of the Earth, but these places are still very pristine. So I'm excited about seeing some of that. I'm excited to meet most of you. I know some of you. I think I'm looking around at some of the different faces here. Some of you don't have faces on there, but I recognize several of you there. And so we're excited about that. And
also, I was just gonna one more shout out for the cruise. We have a room booked for our group on the cruise, so we will be hearing from Russ and Rod on those days at sea as well. We'll be having meeting rooms, so we can look forward to that.
Yeah, we have a lot of things to share with you on those kind of things too. So that's part of the fun part of the going to these places. Is the opportunity to kind of share information that we have been able to glean over the course of many years of research and study on these things. And Russ is going to be the main tour guide as far as the where we're going and what we're going to see. And I'm going to be kind of backup on the universal model stuff and talking about some of the ways that these things actually came together. We'll talk about the plates of the Earth and structure of the Earth and all kinds of stuff. So there you go.
And then here's something that y'all need to be able to tell your family and friends, and don't tell them where you're going to go. Just say, I'm going to go climb the tallest mountain range and the longest mountain range in the world. Because Iceland is actually the only place where the entire mid-Atlantic ridge comes out of the ocean. So this mid-Atlantic ridge runs from all the way from the southern Antarctic Ocean all the way up into the Arctic, and it just comes out right there at Iceland. Yep. You're gonna hike the longest mountain range in the world.
Not hike the entire mountain range, but hike on it.
250 miles.
You're gonna hike on.
It's like we're going 12,000 miles. Okay, just so you know.
I think you guys are scaring everybody.
No, it's the top of that range, and it's really pretty amazing. But we're going to be talking about things like the Mid-Atlantic Ridge and how the oceanic crusts are different from the continental crusts, and how these things happen, and how do volcanoes happen? What is the mechanism for those things to happen? So that's exciting.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about Book of Mormon stuff, right?
Yeah. So Anne has a question.
I do. Thanks. First, I want to say this is my 5th trip with Legacy.
Hey, Ann.
And my 5th trip with Rod.
But 2 or 3 times with me, I think.
5 times with you, Rod. This will be 5th. And just eat your energy bars because you're up and out at 8 and you may go to bed by midnight. So it doesn't waste a minute. Anyway, my question is, Jill, would you send out the days we need to do our own excursions? I'm a cruiser. If you don't plan ahead, you don't get what you want to do. If you wait till you're on the ship to book an excursion, you generally won't get what you want. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't taking notes. So if you could just send an email out.
Absolutely.
On the days that we're on our own. Okay, thanks.
I was going to mention too, I watched some YouTubes on different ports, and I can send out a little stuff that you can see there, if that helps.
Yeah, some links would be great.
Yeah, the 2 that you need to think about is the second to the last one in Reykjavik, because there's nothing planned in Reykjavik.
Is a fedora.
That's what I watched some info on it, so I've got some notes and stuff you can do.
You typically book that through the cruise, though, right? Or do you book it directly and then go there?
I was looking. I got on my app and I was looking on the cruise, and the cruise excursions offered through the cruise line are averaging between $300 and $500 per person. So yes, you can do it through the cruise port, and I'm sure they'll be fantastic. But there are also options to do it through Viator or
usually cheaper.
TripAdvisor, a little cheaper.
Yeah, I would say for sure there are plenty of guides that want to take you out on tours. You probably could arrange to take a group of 3 or 4 people and just work it out. Yeah, I wanted to show you some.
Can I just say something on that first?
Sure.
I do a lot of cruising.
Yeah.
The difference is it's cheaper, but if your bus or whatever breaks down,
you miss.
They have no obligation to get you back to the ship. If you're paying for the excursion through the cruise, they hold the cruise, they get you to the ship, they get you to the next port. So I've known people who it's ended up costing them 5 times the amount because they had to get themselves to the next port. So just something to think about if you're not familiar with that.
Hey, Russ, is that Isafador? Is that where you saw the puffins? Because that's on there.
I don't know for sure because I didn't do that.
Okay.
I just
it's on
know
an island.
It's on that side. The north side is where the puffins, they have puffins everywhere, but there's a pretty neat viewing area over on that side.
Okay, so maybe we'll see them throughout the tour.
I didn't really look into what excursions they are, so that's just, we can look into that kind
and
of.
I will. I'll look more and give some of that information. We do a travel and packing email, and we will include some specific options on there. ideas. But yeah, you can, if you
Yeah.
get on the app now, you can look at the cruise offered ports.
But there's only 2 days basically where we have free enough time to be able to take advantage of a
Of your
separate
own.
excursion.
Yep.
Yeah.
The last 2 ports.
Okay.
So pretty much we keep you running.
Yeah.
I have a question for Russ.
What was that?
Russ, I have a question for you.
Yes.
When you were in Iceland last time, did you rent a car and get yourself places?
No, I actually did a tour. So my first time in Iceland was to lead a tour, and I just
So
had a
you
good
did not-
friend that was with me. So we went a lot of places. Now I know the bus driver that I've requested. He still works there. I've talked to him. So I'm hoping the bus company that we're renting the coach from has him as an employee still. And this is a really good thing when you know the driver, because you get to do a lot of cool stuff. So
Well, my question is really, the day that we're in Reykjavik, we were thinking of renting a car, and I lived at Keflavik at the NATO base in the
Okay.
80s. And so I'd like to just be able to go around, and wondering if you'd had experience renting a car there.
I have not,
Okay,
but I'm sure that they will be extremely accommodating.
Reykjavik is where the airport is, so that's why I'm assuming that you're going to have
It's
cars and
actually in
stuff available
Keflavik.
there.
yeah, it's actually not. It's the international airport's in Keflavik, so it's a bit away from Reykjavik.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I'm sure there'll be rental cars at either place.
Right,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep.
It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, if you we're coming up almost to 8 o'clock. So as we wrap things up here, if you've got more questions, feel free to let us know.
Yep.
But if you don't, give us if you think of them later, email, call us. We will definitely get answers to your questions. We have just about another month before we have to release the rest of our cruise staterooms. And we still have some available. We have a few verandas and a few inside cabins left. So we are still promoting the tour. And if you've got friends that are interested, please refer them to us. But we have to let those go April 17th. So we're going to be pushing hard these next few weeks here. And but yeah, we're very excited, very appreciative of Russ and his expertise, his passion. Mark and I went with Russ to the Grand Canyon, and it was just fascinating. We loved learning everything that we learned at all those different sites, and he was really patient with the dozens of questions that I had, and I'm ready for the next level here, and been on lots of tours with Rod, and he does an amazing job as well. Sometimes we call him the Energizer Bunny. If you've traveled with him, you know that's true.
Right,
yeah.
Ann?
Yes. So we are in awesome hands with
Yep.
Russ and Rod, and they're so excited. So did I see someone else have a question?
Yeah, Robin. Robin, you had a question?
I have one more question.
Okay.
Jill, did you say that you sent out already information on the tour?
No, not yet, but
On
we
the
will.
cruise? Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
not yet.
Just somebody patched in a question, wanted to know if they needed a roommate. And
Good question.
that's what I put my
Yeah.
hand up
Was-
for.
yeah. Was that, yeah, that is a good question. Was that Delynn that
Yes.
asked that? Okay.
Yeah.
Dylan.
She is looking for another single female roommate. So if you've got a friend that would like to come, but doesn't want to have to pay the single supplement, give
Okay.
us a call.
All right, thanks.
All right. I'm excited.
It'd be great.
Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.